Dr. Kiera Valshar had exactly 15 minutes left before her body shut down completely, and she knew it with the clinical precision that came from years of medical training. The hypothermia was setting in faster than her calculations had predicted. Her orange skin had faded to a dull rust color, her vision was tunneling, and her legs were barely responding to commands anymore. She'd made a critical error. The temperature controls in her research lab on Outpost Meridian had failed 3 hours ago, and instead of calling for help immediately, she'd tried to fix them herself while continuing her work. By the time she'd realized the ambient temperature had dropped to dangerous levels, her body was already in crisis. Veltharians didn't do well with cold. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was deadly. Kiera stumbled through the corridors of the research station, her blonde hair matted with sweat despite the freezing temperature, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She needed to reach the medical bay, needed to get to the thermal regulation pods before her core temperature dropped any further. She rounded a corner and her legs finally gave out. The floor rushed up to meet her, and Kiera had just enough time to think how embarrassing it was that she was going to die in a hallway before everything went dark. Marcus Chen was not having a good day. His cargo delivery to Outpost Meridian had been delayed by 6 hours due to navigational errors. He discovered his coffee maker was broken, and now he was trudging through the research station looking for someone to sign off on his manifest so he could leave this frozen rock and get back to civilization. Then he rounded a corner and found a Veltharian woman collapsed on the floor. Shit! Marcus dropped his datapad and ran. He'd done enough emergency medical training to recognize hypothermia when he saw it, and this woman was in bad shape. Her skin was pale, wrong for a Veltharian, and when he touched her, she was ice cold. No, not ice cold, room temperature, which for a Veltharian was the same as freezing to death. Marcus didn't think, he just acted. He scooped her up, surprised by how light she was, and started running. The medical bay was 2 corridors away according to the station map he'd memorized. Not far if he moved fast. The woman stirred in his arms, her amber eyes opening briefly. "Cold," she whispered, "so cold. I know I've got you, just hold on." He burst through the medical bay doors, triggering every alarm in the facility. Within seconds, medical staff were swarming them, taking the Veltharian woman from his arms and rushing her to a thermal regulation pod. Marcus stood in the doorway, his heart pounding, watching as they worked. One of the doctors, a Xanthari named Dr. Velther, approached him with a scanner. "You saved her life," the doctor said without preamble. "Another 5 minutes and her organs would have started shutting down. How did you know what to do?" "I didn't," Marcus admitted. "I just knew she was in trouble and needed help." "Instinct then, good instincts." Dr. Velther gestured toward the observation window. "She's stable now. Dr. Valshar is fortunate you found her when you did." Dr. Valshar. Marcus moved to the window, watching as they stabilized her in the thermal pod. "She's a doctor, one of our best xenobiologists, brilliant researcher, terrible at asking for help when she needs it." The doctor's expression was rueful. She must have been working through the temperature failure in her lab, didn't realize how much danger she was in until it was too late. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. "Will she be okay?" "Thanks to you, yes. Full recovery expected within 24 hours. Kiera woke slowly, warmth seeping back into her body like dawn breaking after a long night. She was in a thermal regulation pod. She could tell from the familiar hum of the heating elements and the soft amber glow. Her last memory was of falling, of cold, of strong arms catching her. Someone had saved her. She opened her eyes to find a human man sitting in a chair beside her pod, his head tilted back, eyes closed, clearly asleep. He was handsome in a rugged way, dark hair slightly too long, stubble on his jaw, wearing the kind of practical clothing that said cargo hauler or independent trader. He looked exhausted. "You're awake," a nurse said, noticing her movement. The sound woke the man, who immediately sat forward. "Hey," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "How are you feeling?" Kiera studied him, her scientist brain cataloging details. Human, early 30s, concerned expression. Calloused hands that said he worked with them. "Kind eyes, like I was frozen and thawed," Kiera said, her voice scratchy. "You found me?" "Yeah, in the hallway outside Lab 7. The man stood, moving closer to the pod. "I'm Marcus Chen, Dr. Kiera Valshar." She tried to sit up and immediately felt dizzy. Marcus's hand shot out to steady her through the pod's interface. "Thank you for saving my life. Just did what anyone would do. Most people wouldn't have known what to do." Veltharian hypothermia isn't common knowledge among humans, Marcus shrugged. "I've done some emergency medical training. Figured getting you somewhere warm was the first priority. The medical staff did the rest." Kiera looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something that made her heart skip. He wasn't looking at her like she was an exotic alien or a fascinating specimen. He was looking at her like she was a person. Someone worth saving, not because of her species or her title, but simply because she needed help. "How long have you been sitting there?" she asked. "Since they brought you in, about 8 hours. 8 hours? Don't you have somewhere to be? Nowhere more important than making sure you were okay." Marcus smiled, and it transformed his face. "Besides, my cargo delivery can wait. You couldn't." Over the next 3 days, as Kiera recovered in the medical bay, Marcus became a constant presence. He brought her books from the station library when she complained of boredom. He argued with her about scientific theories he barely understood just to see her eyes light up with passion. He made her laugh with stories of his cargo runs across the sector. And Kiera found herself looking forward to his visits with an intensity that was both thrilling and terrifying. "You should leave," she said on the third day, even as she hoped he wouldn't. "Your cargo delivery is already a week late." "Another few days won't matter." Marcus was sitting in his usual chair, looking frustratingly comfortable. "Unless you're tired of my company." "No," Kiera admitted, "I'm not. That's the problem." "How is that a problem?" "Because you're human, I'm Veltharian, you're a cargo hauler, I'm a xenobiologist. We have nothing in common, we live completely different lives, and in a few days you'll leave and I'll never see you again." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "What if I didn't what?" "Leave." "What if I stayed?" Kiera's heart stuttered. "Marcus, you can't just you have a job, a life. You can't throw that away because you found me in a hallway." "I'm not throwing anything away, I'm choosing something different." Marcus leaned forward. "Kiera, I've been hauling cargo for 8 years. It's lonely, it's monotonous, and it pays barely enough to keep my ship running. I've been looking for a reason to change course for a long time. Maybe you're that reason. You barely know me. I know enough." "I know you're brilliant. I've read some of your published research, by the way, and I understood maybe 10% of it. I know you're passionate about your work. I know you have a terrible habit of pushing yourself too hard and not asking for help when you need it. I know you laugh at terrible jokes and you take your coffee with way too much sweetener. You've been paying attention." "Of course I have. You're fascinating, Kiera, and not just because you're Veltharian or because you're a doctor, because you're you." Kiera felt tears burning in her eyes. "I almost died because I was too stubborn to ask for help. That's not fascinating, Marcus, that's stupid. It's human or Veltharian or whatever, it's a mistake anyone could make." Marcus reached for her hand. "But you don't have to make those mistakes alone anymore. If you'll let me, I'd like to stick around, help you, get to know you better, see where this goes. This, whatever this is between us. Because I felt it the moment I picked you up in that hallway, Kiera, and I think you felt it too." Kiera couldn't deny it. From the moment she'd woken up to find Marcus sitting beside her pod, something had shifted. He'd saved her life, yes, but more than that, he'd shown her what it was like to have someone care, not because of her research or her title or her species, but simply because she mattered. "I did," she whispered. "I felt it, I'm feeling it now. Then let me stay." Let me be there for you, not as some grand romantic gesture, but as whatever you need me to be. Dr. Hoare was not pleased when Marcus requested a position on Outpost Meridian. You're a cargo hauler, the doctor said flatly. We don't have positions for cargo haulers. What about maintenance? I'm good with my hands, I can fix things. We have a maintenance crew. What about lab assistants? I can learn, I'm a fast learner. Dr. Hoare studied Marcus with his multifaceted eyes. This is about Dr. Valshar. Yes, you barely know her. I know enough to want to know more. The doctor was silent for a long moment, then surprisingly he smiled. She needs someone who will make sure she doesn't work herself to death, someone who will remind her to eat, to sleep, to take breaks. He pulled up a data pad. We do have an opening for a research assistant. It doesn't pay well and you'll be doing mostly menial tasks, but it would allow you to stay on the station. I'll take it. 6 months later, Kiera stood in her lab, the same lab where the temperature failure had nearly killed her. Now with redundant safety systems Marcus had personally installed, watching her research assistant calibrate equipment with surprising competence. Marcus had been right. He was a fast learner. He'd picked up basic laboratory protocols within weeks and was now an invaluable part of her research team. But more than that, he'd become invaluable to her. He made sure she ate regular meals. He dragged her out of the lab when she'd been working too long. He listened to her theories and asked questions that sometimes led to breakthroughs. He was patient with her single-minded focus on her work and passionate in his insistence that she take care of herself. And somewhere between the equipment calibrations and the late-night research sessions and the quiet moments when he'd just sit with her, Kiera had fallen completely in love with him. "You're staring," Marcus said without looking up from the spectrometer. "I'm observing. That's what you said last time I caught you staring. Maybe I like observing you." Marcus looked up and the smile he gave her made her skin glow brighter. "Yeah, what are you observing? That you're terrible at calibrating that spectrometer. You've been at it for 20 minutes and you're still off by 0.3%. I'm being thorough. You're being stubborn." Kiera crossed the lab and gently pushed him aside. "Like this." She adjusted the settings and Marcus watched her work with obvious admiration. When she finished, he didn't move away. Instead, he stayed close, his presence warm and solid beside her. "Kiera," he said softly, "can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it that I stayed, changed my whole life for someone I just met?" Kiera turned to face him fully. "Do you regret it?" "Not for a second. Best decision I ever made, but I want to know if this is what you want." "If I'm what you want." Kiera reached up to touch his face, marveling at the warmth of human skin under her fingers. "Marcus, you changed everything. I was so focused on my work, so isolated, that I'd forgotten what it was like to have someone care about me. You reminded me. You saved my life that day in the hallway, but you've saved it every day since just by being here. By making me laugh, by forcing me to take breaks, by believing in my research even when I doubted it myself. So that's a yes. That's a I love you, you ridiculous human, and I don't know what I'd do without you." Marcus's smile was brilliant. "Well, lucky for you, you won't have to find out, because I'm not going anywhere." He kissed her, and Kiera felt her skin glow with warmth and happiness. She'd collapsed in a hallway 6 months ago, dying from hypothermia and her own stubborn refusal to ask for help. She'd been saved by a cargo hauler with kind eyes and strong arms who'd seen someone in need and hadn't hesitated. And in saving her, Marcus Chen had changed everything. Not just her life, but her understanding of what life could be. She'd been surviving before. Working, researching, existing in isolation. Now she was living. And it was all because one human had refused to walk away.